I call this meeting to order of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. A quorum is present. I would just note that Alex Vincent contacted me this afternoon, and he had a work emergency and will join us if and when he can. And the rest of us are all here. Um, I do have a few remarks that I wanted to start off with. First, I wanted to recognize two important upcoming holidays. Alex Vincent's birthday on May 22nd and Kina Anyam's birthday on May 25th. And just want to wish them both happy birthday and in this upcoming week and many happy returns. On a more serious note, we learned last week that the State Board of Elections vendor for mail-in ballots mailed the wrong party primary election ballot to some mail-in voters across the state, including in Montgomery County, and now plans to remail correct mail-in ballots to voters whose ballots were mailed before May the 14th. This issue does not affect those who received the printed home web delivered ballots. The State Board of Elections and the vendor both issued statements that we have shared, and today the State Board of Elections put up a web page on elections.maryland.gov entitled Mail-in Ballot Replacement Information. It has a lot of useful information there. The State Board will be mailing postcards and sending emails and texts to voters who provided that information, to those voters who should expect a replacement ballot in the mail. As the board knows, Maryland has long had methods that will be used again to prevent the counting of more than one ballot from any voter who is reissued a mail-in ballot, whether it's because of this problem or spilling coffee on the ballot or making a mistake while voting or whatever the reason. While we don't know how widespread the wrong party mailings were, we do know that the incorrect mailings affected all party affiliations, Democrats, Republicans, and unaffiliated voters, and were not limited to any specific location. To our knowledge, the state's vendor did not send out fake mail-in ballots and did not send ballots to the wrong people. Real mail-in ballots were mailed to the voters who requested them, but the party affiliations for the ballots were not properly matched with some specific voters' party affiliations. Some voters received their correct ballots, but some voters received the wrong ballots. The state board does not know exactly how many voters received the wrong ballots, as matching the voters' affiliations with their ballots requires opening the envelopes, which board members know we can only do once the mail-in ballot canvass begins in the canvass. Rather than waiting for that time-consuming and labor-intensive process, the state decided to send the correct ballots to all of the affected voters in a second mailing and to ask voters to use the new ballots. That way, all voters can be assured that they are voting on the correct primary election ballot. I'm told that those reissued mail-in ballots will be mailed to Montgomery County voters next week. I'm pretty sure I can speak for all board members and staff in saying that we're very unhappy and truly sorry that this happened. I personally shared our concerns with the state administrator. Any errors in the electoral process, regardless of who makes them, can hurt voter confidence in the process and make voting more difficult and complicated for the voters, the board, and the staff. As always, we will be transparent about disclosing and fixing any errors, whether they're ours or someone else's. But most importantly, the state's process should put the correct mail-in ballots in the hands of the voters who requested them. And we will do our part to make sure that Montgomery County voters have the best, most up-to-date information so that eligible voters can be assured that their votes will count. And while this issue is being handled at the state level, we will share additional information as we receive it. Are there any other board members who would like to make any comments? Okay, seeing none, are there any additions or changes to the agenda? I do have one, which is that uh, an additional purpose for our closed session for item 16 which is to consult with counsel about legal issues. That's in addition to the two subjects that are already listed on the agenda. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Okay. Next is disclosure of campaign contributions or attendance at fundraisers. Does anyone have any disclosures to make today? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Next is public comments. Boris, has anybody signed up for public comment?
Uh, David, no one has signed up to address the board today.
Okay. Is there anyone who is, if you are an observer in this meeting and you would like to address the board, please raise your mechanical hand and we will promote you and listen to what you have to say. If I don't see that in the next 15 seconds, I'm going to move on. Okay, there's no public comment today, so we'll move on in the agenda. So the next thing on the agenda is the election director's report. Boris.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. Just go through the report and then answer questions if the board members would have any. We are sticking to our process, publishing the agenda week before the board meeting, putting all the materials that are shared with the board that Thursday before the meeting for the general public to have access to them as well. This report follows the regular structure. We are talking about voter registration and active status, and the fact that we are, and as of end of April, we are close to 706,000 registered active voters in Montgomery County. My report also included a note about the fact the state board sent out mail-in ballot to both your overseas voters and domestic voters on May 8, May 11, but I believe that topic is already being covered. When it comes to the personnel, it's my pleasure to share with the board that Jared Ford was selected and promoted as the new manager of Outreach Recruitment and Training Section, and Sarah Mansouri was selected to the polling place specialist position within the elections operations sections. Both candidates started in their new position as of May 4th, and we have a new colleague called Suzanne Abdallah, who is starting today, and she will be our new voter education and training lead. When it comes to the temporary positions, as board might expect, as we are getting closer to the election day, our needs for the temporary support by colleagues is needed. We have currently 65 temporary employees on site, spread through every section in the building, doing all the work that needs to be completed before early voting, recruitment, training, processing applications, answering the phones, or etc. When it comes to the budget, budget document is shared with the board, is available to the public. Our projections are on track. We believe that our expenditures follow what we were planning, where we were planning to be at this point. I just wanted to emphasize, and maybe board president want to add a few words about the fact that we appear before the full council on May 8th in regards to fiscal 27 Board of Elections budget. It was, I would say that our input, our budget was well received, and council voted to send it forward. When it comes to the voter communication, as I promised to the board, the team will look to intensify voter communication as we're getting closer to the election for various different reasons. Let me start by saying that first, we sent over 50,000 emails to registered Republican voters, asking them to join us and serve as election judges, asking them to bring their family members, neighbors, friends, and community. We followed a week later, we sent the same email to 360,000 voters of all the party affiliations with the same message because, again, as I mentioned in the last board meeting, our focus is having polling places and early voting sites fully staffed. We did follow with the separate emails to voters who are in inactive status, telling them, to update their residential address or to let us know if they moved out of the state or any other reason why they would be canceled. And of course, for all active voters, we send a separate email to check their voter registration, to update anything that's necessary, with a special focus on party affiliation, because Maryland is closed primary state, meaning you have to be affiliated with the party in order to vote in that party's primary. It was on state to send communication to all the voters who are on the permanent mail-in ballot list, and they did it. When it comes to the sections, very briefly, voter services, in particular voter registration. Any day is voter registration day, so we continue what we do all the time in terms of processing incoming requests, doing the updates as per data shared through the different agencies or the voters themselves. When it comes to the vote by mail team, we are outreaching, working with 54 nursing homes and assisted living facilities. This is a state program that we are implementing in Montgomery County as well. We are visiting these facilities to assist their residents to register to vote or to request vote by mail ballot or help them fill out the vote by mail ballot. As in previous years, any communication on site with the voters is done in pairs. It's bipartisan teams, so we follow established standards when it comes to that. When it comes to the municipal elections, we just wanted to share the list with the board of upcoming municipal elections as we learned about them. Our role is minimal. We provide the voter registration lists to those who administer those municipal elections at their localities, but the list of those localities that will have municipal elections and who share the dates with us are included in the report. Voting system and information technology section. We have started with the logic and accuracy preparation for election equipment that will be deployed for early voting and election day. It will take us some time. The team is working on that already. Ms. Janet Ross, who is the manager of the section, she's still working with our colleagues from TABS in regards to our new election resource management system. Previously, we spoke to the board and we said we did the testing on our end of the new system, but the best feedback is provided by the actual users, over 5,000 volunteers who are using the system to sign up. So we are collecting input from them and trying to improve the system as we go. Elections operations section. We got our ballots. We are preparing quantities that will be deployed to early voting sites and election day polling places. So that part of the warehouse is also like a beehive. So that will keep us busy for quite some time. When it comes to outreach, recruitment, and training, I believe, again, outreach out, because we will have a separate point on the agenda for that. When it comes to recruitment, focus is always election judges. Processing application, processing online quizzes, answering the phones or emails, assist potential volunteers how to finalize the process. I just need to bring two issues maybe here. Dropbox teams and nursing home teams are fully staffed. That those programs are already ongoing. We are fully staffed with volunteers for those two activities. The focus remains on early voting and in particular on the election day. My report includes some numbers that significantly better than the last report, but again, we will be satisfied when we are fully staffed, and we are not there yet. As of last Wednesday evening, I would say, we had 5,338 volunteers who either renewed or submitted their application online to volunteer for the upcoming election. The key number here is that we were at 2,500 volunteers who completed full training, who are ready to be assigned to serve at their polling places. We have a certain number of volunteers who completed online quiz but did not sign up for the training yet. Our team is literally working the phones, working the emails, trying to fill the training classes as we go. I need to bring two issues to the board's attention. The first one, it will not come as a surprise to anyone on this call that we, again, in addition to still working to get sufficient number of volunteers to serve, we are again struggling with the sufficient staffing of the specialist positions, chiefs, provisional, same-day registration. So bear with us. This is something that we are aware of. This is something that it's in our focus. We are trying to work with volunteers to attract them to sign up for these positions because that will be really valuable for the overall process. But that's something that will work itself out as we go. The second thing is I share with the board, share with the public, at the same time we share with the board, two sets of reports regarding election judges' vacancies and party affiliation parity. The law requires by April 27 not to assign any unaffiliated chief judge unless until that date. Only to assign them right after that date unless we achieve the parity between majority party and principal minority party. We did not achieve parity at the polling places. We did not achieve parity among two chiefs at the polling places either. So we started assigning unaffiliated volunteers to those positions. We prepared a report following the legal deadline as a moment in time where we were at that particular moment. And the updated report was shared with the board, and I believe it was pulled on Wednesday as well. So there are two sets. One follows the legal deadline, just to give an overview where were we when the legal deadline kicked in, and what were our numbers right before the board meeting. As it looks now, we will not be able to achieve parity, but definitely something that remains in our focus. That will be director's report for today.
Okay, thank you, Boris. First, on behalf of the board, we want to welcome Mr. Ford, Ms. Mansouri, and Ms. Abdullah, and look forward to meeting them and thanking them for their service. I have a question about the parity report. Or the vacancy report. It seems like there are significant differences in the percentage of vacancies at different early voting centers. And I was wondering if that is typical and whether that's just something that evens out at the end, or if there's anything that needs to be done in order to address that so that we are as close to fully staffed in all the locations as we need to be.
So it is typical. And I would say that nothing that would cause me to worry at this particular moment when it comes to the early voting, and for two different reasons. Early voting, there was significant interest among volunteers for the service at the early voting sites. And the second thing is election judges who serve during 8 days of early voting usually serve multiple days. And we were waiting to hear for some of their availability to assign them second or third day. Again, I don't think it's encouraged to serve 8 days, but for the continuity, building knowledge base, and the efficiency at the polling places, we like to see during early voting election judges serving multiple days at certain locations. So if I would need to rank what my worries are, my biggest worry is election day. Mm-hmm. In addition to specialty positions that are just a matter of fact, always problematic on election day itself. If you look at the provisional positions, let's say very generously 3 per early voting sites, we are talking about 42 individuals per day, right? Individuals who may serve multiple days. On election day, we are talking 250, 260 in one day, which is much harder to achieve. So, good observation. We are there, but again, if I need to worry, to be honest, what I worry most is election day than early voting. Won't be satisfied till it's fully staffed. That's given. But election day is my biggest worry at this point.
Okay, thank you. Larry.
As you assign unaffiliated, as you're certainly authorized and justified in doing now, and as Republicans, if they show, when they show up, if they show up, if there's suddenly influx of Republican applicants and people who pass the training, what happens then? Do you unassign affiliated, or you just so backfill? What happens if Republicans do show up?
So there are multiple versions of that scenario, but we still have openings, and while I can promise that if a Republican chief judge passes training and we have opening, that person will be assigned. Is it gonna he or she be assigned to their home precinct because they came this late? I cannot promise that, because the law requires ability to serve, and I think that is what we always want to do. But now we have so many vacancies throughout the county, and we always encourage volunteers, please come forward as early as possible to increase your chances to serve at your home precinct. So
Thanks.
Um, uh, One other comment I wanted to make, and then I'll see if anyone else has anything they want to say. But do I understand correctly that it's not only that we don't have parity between the parties, but we also don't even have the same percentage of Republican and unaffiliated judges as we have registered voters. Is that correct? The percentage of our election judges who are Republicans is less than the 14% of our registered voters. The percentage of election judges who are unaffiliated is less than I guess it's about 26%. I don't remember what the last percentage is for unaffiliated voters, but um, so I know we have this discussion almost every month, but is there anything else? I mean, it sounds like you literally went to every registered Republican and asked them to serve, or everyone whose email address you had.
yeah. So again, I know that anything that we came up with, we throw it at this problem, right? But at some problem, there is at some point the reaction that we are getting is not sufficient to close the gap,
Right.
or to make it even. I think that what David is pointing out, at this point we are short to match the party affiliation per voter register per voter roll, let alone the parity 50-50 between the majority party and principal minority party, right? So I would say there's a long road ahead. I know that our focus remains to have parity to any extent that we can achieve it. I know that we will not have two chiefs from same party at any polling place on election day. So
Hmm.
we will take it from there. So the fact that we have too many Democrats doesn't mean that two Democrats will be chiefs at any polling place.
Right. Right. And
That
and I,
doesn't.
I was very careful. I don't want to suggest that we have too many Democrats. I think we just have a disproportionate number of them.
Disproportionate. Fair enough.
We really don't have enough of anything. I mean, we have anyone.
Correct.
We want
Correct.
more people. I would say I guess this is mostly directed to Ami and Larry in case you have any influence over this, but it might be worth asking whether any of I have no idea how many people are signing up to be poll watchers or challengers. But it might be that some of those people would want to take a turn as an election judge, which would make them far better trained and prepared to be a poll watcher or challenger in a future election. And so I put that out there, and that's actually true for every political party affiliation. The experience of being an election judge gives you a much better sense as to what the job entails before it's your job to kind of critique what is happening. So I realize that I'm not adequately describing the job of the poll watcher or a challenger, but that's my point is still the same. You could learn a lot by being an election judge to inform your work on behalf of a political party. So I'll just throw that out there in case there's any hope that there are people in that category who might be recruitable to be an election judge. And of course, a reminder that I don't know if we have those positions left, but we have not only 16-hour positions, we have 8-hour positions that are out there as well.
May I just add, if we end up having too many trained chiefs, I would love to have that problem because chiefs are trained to serve to do provisional and SDR in the same time. It gives me better flexibility to follow the operational needs and dispatch the surplus of chiefs where the greatest need is. But again, let's arrive there and have that problem, and I'll be happy to have it.
Yes. Any other questions or comments on the director's report? Okay. Seeing none, let's move on to the board attorney's report. Kevin.
David, I don't have anything for open session. Mine are all executive session items.
Okay. Are there any open questions for Kevin? All right. We will then move along. Next is the website update. Boris, 2 months
Okay.
worth of website update.
2 months worth of website updates, and it actually turned out well because I promised the board that we will be up to date for this board meeting as our colleagues from TEBS were able to pull the data for us. This report includes February, March, and April, as we couldn't report at the last board meeting. Again, if you look at the number of page views, we went from 18,000 in February, which was kind of, we are getting out of the slow season, to 55, 59,000 now. This number will only go up as we get closer to election. Keep in mind, this is April data, end of April. Basically, sample ballots didn't go out yet. Our voter guide didn't go out yet. All the messaging didn't go out. So I believe that we will remain the trusted source for Montgomery County voters, and that will be reflected the number of visits at our website. So when it comes to the rest of the numbers that are shared in this report, they follow the same pattern as we go forward. There's a bit off number in March under average time. Basically, the average length of time that the website had focused in the browser of the certain individual, it's almost double for that month compared to others. I didn't have time to look deeper into this to find the reason. But again, for me, as long as our voters are on our website, researching the documents, researching the options, researching the information, I'm good with that. That's basically the main purpose of the website, to provide all those information to our voters. You will see that when it comes to both March and April, election judge, anything about volunteers dominates the pages on our website that were accessed by our voters, and we hope that will sustain like that. We saw that when we send an email out about recruitment, that there were certain activity, maybe 2,000-3,000 voters who immediately within the first 4 hours checked our website to follow those links. So those are numbers that are always good for us to see, to gauge certain level of interest. So that will be a very short update on our website usage. I think for the record purposes, having it up to date is valuable as well.
I'd love to know what we did in March that was so interesting that it kept people's attention. I don't know if we had a particularly interesting meeting or new press release or something, but I don't know how hard that is to find out. But
Yeah. I can try, but I cannot promise because all the platforms changing to the county and everything. As I said,
no, understood.
Yeah,
understood. I just didn't, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything about March that was that different, other than I guess it appears that to our web visitors, that was the start of the election season because it picked up so much. So, um, any questions about the website report or any comments? Boy, a quiet group today. Okay. Um, let's move on. And the next item on the agenda, I believe, is the outreach update with Dr. Zelaya, who I believe has to be promoted. Oh, no, I think he still has to be promoted.
Good
Okay,
afternoon,
there he
everyone.
is. Good to see you, Dr. Z. Please proceed.
Yes, so between now and the first weeks of June, we have about 30 more outreach events that we will have a presence. Historically, as we near early voting, we kind of start tapering off as it pertains to our engagement in the community. Of course, election days towards the end of June, with early voting mid-June, and there's a lot of requests. Obviously, we've been asking our advocates to invite us early, right? Because obviously, the closer we get to the election, we start focusing on other aspects of election preparation. Right now, the main topics as it pertains to social media and also our presence in the community, in addition to as we near the voter registration advance deadline, which is Tuesday, the 2nd of June, also still promoting election workers, mail-in voting for those individuals who want to request, drop boxes, and how to formulate a vote plan. Obviously, with the recent activities and challenges with SBE and the second mail-in ballot issue, we're pushing that up, kind of the messaging totem pole, just to make sure that our voters are abreast of the changes. Several web posting have been pushed up on our social media platforms regarding SBE and the second issue mail-in ballots. And we're going to work on continuing to do that messaging to be ahead of the curve. Obviously, with the State Board of Elections taking the lead. I also want to thank you, President Naaman and other board members. I was absent in the previous meetings, but our team are extremely grateful for acknowledging the work that we do in the community. But also as an invitation to our advocates, please, we're nearing the election. So what happens is our team members start focusing on other aspect of implementing the actual elections as we near it. So we will apologize. We did get a couple of invitations, one on the first day of early voting and the other one on the last day of early voting. So kind of busy, but all the information, once again, are on our website, 777vote.org. Everyone's gotten the very robust sample ballot. It has all the information for election day preparations. In there are also the series of texting prompts. But by all means, come to us. We're the trusted source, and all the information is online, your sample ballot. And please extend your questions to us, and we will be there to serve and to respond to them.
Thank you very much. Daniel.
Hello, Mr. President. I received a communication from the Montgomery County Village Consortium, recognizing but thanking Dr. Gilberto Zelaya for organizing two outreach events that focused on all the Montgomery County villages. And these are 55 and better communities that were very interested in not only volunteering as election workers, but also needed this important information that Dr. Z provided. And it was great to see Larry, who joined one of the meetings as well. So I just wanted to make sure I deliver that message to the entire board.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for telling us, Daniel. Dr. Z, thank you for that work. Very much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Anything else for Dr. Zelaya? Okay. Thank you very much.
David, may I
Boris.
may I just ask Gilberto to share with the board and the public the new texting option that will be rolled out for the run up to the election day for fines?
Oh, yes. So,
Yeah.
so one of the texting prompts, as you know, is as we expanded over the years, early voting, and when individuals would tend to go to the particular early voting center, and let's say outside the early voting season, they return, for example, Praisner, but on their sample ballot, it's noted that their election day polling place is actually Paint Branch. So we push out a new texting prompt, which will be available from June 19th, the day after early voting through election day. And the word is find to 77788 to identify your election day polling place. And in Spanish is buscar. But once again, that will be active from the 19th through the 23rd of June.
And tell us a little more about how that's going to work. Is that going to take you to the place where you check your voter registration, or is it going to take you to a place to put in your address, or how's that
It
going to
will
work?
take you, yes, good question. It will take you to the State Board of Elections link where you could find your polling place. But by giving individual that texting prompt is very quick, it's simple. You don't have to navigate through our website or SPE's.
But it would be based on typing in their address
Correct. Their
because
address
be,
and their
be-
zip code. Correct.
because as you know, a number of us, myself included, have spent quite a bit of time on election day at various locations helping people to look up their polling places, and I think it's good because I think they're going to be much more willing to, to anything that makes it easier, and also to use their address as opposed to all of their information, their date of birth, et cetera. So,
Correct. Correct. Totally
um,
agree. So we
so yes,
will add to our arsenal of texting prompts.
okay, starting on Juneteenth, on June 19th.
June 19th. Yes.
Right. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. And thank you, Boris, for making sure that we talked about that. That's great. Anything else for Dr. Zelaya? Okay, I'm assuming that the first day and last day of early voting was a thanks, but we'll have to come see you another day. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, because we appreciate your work on those days, and would be a little concerned if you were not available.
No, no, I will be here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Okay, next on the agenda is old business. Does anybody have any old business? Okay, seeing none. Next on the agenda is new business. Does anybody have new business? Okay, then next on the agenda is the list of future action items from today's meeting. And I have to admit that I can't remember any, but that doesn't mean that there weren't any.
I didn't capture any either, but I think that our list of future items is communication with the voters on many different topics, and that's
Yes.
one that we have to continue going on amplifying the State Board of Elections messaging to all voters, plus our own messaging related to recruitment and the need to have
Okay.
election judges of all party affiliation.
But I want the record to show that board members have not added to your list today. That
Thank you.
We're being respectful of the fact that your list is already long. Although this would be a good time to mention that um, Boris is always available, as you guys know, but he was particularly available over the last few days while he was out of town attending a happy family occasion. And yet he was still keeping us up to date on everything that was happening back here. And it was above and beyond the call of duty, but it was very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. I believe that my email from last night at approximately 9 o'clock is it's not the last email, but it's the one that included my proposed changes that Ami, I believe, agreed with.
Yeah,
Is there a motion on the minutes?
I will
Ami,
move that we accept the minutes as amended by you, David.
okay, is there a second? seconded by Larry, moved by Ami, seconded by Larry. All those in favor, voting members, please raise your hand. Okay, it is unanimous with Larry voting because Alex is not here. And then our future meetings, and before we adjourn, we'll get an executive session motion. But our future meetings, we have our swearing in and our initial meeting of the Board of Canvassers scheduled for 10 o'clock on June 1. And the schedule for our canvas, as board members know, and I want to make sure the public knows, is always subject to change based on events, number of ballots received, et cetera, et cetera. But will be posted on our website. And then we do have a virtual meeting that we will be having at 11 o'clock on primary election day. We'll be having plenty of meetings in between that in terms of canvas meetings, but not our regular monthly board meetings. And obviously, if there are any changes in that schedule, we will keep you all posted. And then I guess I would ask if someone would like to make a motion or to move that we go into executive session pursuant to general provisions 3305B 1 and 10 to discuss the performance evaluation of an employee over whom the board has jurisdiction and to discuss public security for early voting. And I don't know what the provision number is, but also to consult with counsel about legal issues.
I move that we go into executive session for those three reasons.
Okay, is there a second? Is there a second to going into executive session?
I'll second it, Mr.
Okay.
President.
Okay, seconded by Daniel. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, our meeting, our public meeting is adjourned. We are moving to executive session. I believe that we were sent a link by Kevin's staff. Is that correct, Kevin?
That's correct. And it was sent again about an hour ago.
Right.
Okay,
Got it.
excellent.
Thank you.
See you guys there. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.